Alright, welcome to everything in patch 3.0, at least everything I was able to find out. But I want to go ahead and start off by saying that this was on the test server, so there is a chance that most of this could change. So let's go ahead and discuss some of the features that are going to be coming in patch 3.0. Starting out with the weekly tab. You'll notice instead of getting type 3 keys, we can now get this type of box, to where you're allowed to select type 3 chips, which you should never do. Type 3 keys are signet 3s, which is going to be used for the new area. On top of that, we also get a purple box to where you can get type 2 chips, but again, I recommend that you use all of these on signets because you're going to need those to get energy, which I will discuss later on in this video. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the daily bounty. You can now preview what each area will give you. You'll notice for Aspera, you get the generic rewards, old Vera coins, gold nucleus, black nucleus, and such. Vera is the same thing, except you can get appointed research materials from inners. But the one that I recommend that you do is domain 9, because not only do you get old Vera coins, but you also get signet 2s, which you're going to need to get energy and other resources in the new area. And next, let's go ahead and discuss the casual tab. So what this does is put most of the casual items of the game all in one place. Here you can visit Artificial Island, you can take a look at the fishing tab, and you can quickly get to your appointed research. But one thing to note is that this doesn't instantly teleport you to places. Like for example, if you wanted to play Fight the Landlord, all it does is just give you the location where it's at. Same with Ronnie the Resource Dealer. And those are the only things that have changed in the recommended tab. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the select tab. And the main thing that has changed right here is join operations. Now over at Instance Affix, you can now click this button right here and you're able to see what affixes you're going to have during the week. So you'll notice on Saturday, that's when we have a chance to get Zilla shards. And the next week, it's most likely going to be Habuella shards. So expect every Saturday is going to be when we get those special shards. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the level pack. You'll notice that they added an extra level to where we can get level 95. And once we reach that level, this is what we get. So there is a very strong chance that in patch 3.0, we're going to finally be able to reach level 95. So you may want to start getting some weapon materials so that way you can level up all of your weapons. And the Wanderer's Log got updated slightly. You'll notice here on the right that if you complete chapter 7 and 13, you get 2 Shiro matrices. So you can get a whole set of Shiros coming in patch 3.0. And one other thing to note is that you'll notice that I'm in the new area, Domain 9. So if I go ahead and click on the map and click on Mioria, now I don't have to be in the city to instantly teleport there. So for example, if I wanted to go to the cactus, I can already just choose this teleport and instantly teleport right there. And with us being able to reach the level 95, we also got another suppressor level. So we can now go all the way up to 10.5, to where each suppressor level is exactly the same. You're going to need 8 Potent Omnium Crystal 2 and 30 Potent Omnium Crystals. So to fully max this out, you're going to need 40 Potent Omnium Crystal 2s and 150 Potent Omnium Crystals. So I strongly recommend that you definitely buy your Potent Omnium Crystal 2s, and you also go ahead and go to Ronnie and get those free Potent Omnium Crystals every week. So now let's go ahead and talk about a pretty big new feature that is being added to the game. We now have this social networking tab. In it, this is where you can find your friends, you can get access to your mail, and now we have this mentorship option, to where you can either have 3 apprentices or you can have 3 mentors. So now let's go ahead and talk about how you can get an apprentice. Your CS has to be at least 30% higher than your apprentices. You also must be 2 levels higher than the apprentice. And as I said before, you can only have 3 apprentices at a time. To be a mentor, you have to reach a level of 65. And if an apprentice does not accept the application within 7 days, it will automatically be declined. Now, if you want to terminate a mentorship, you have to cancel it, and after 72 hours, it will end. So next, let's go ahead and talk about mentorship missions. You'll see right here, these are the mentorship missions that we can do for the week, which are pretty simple. Basically, all you gotta do is do a joint operation, frontier clash, complete an origin of war, do a raid, avoid rift, and defeat a world boss with your apprentice. So if you do all of this every week, you're able to get 1,000 mentorship coins. And with those coins, you can go into the mentorship store. To where if you remember my Titan gear guide, this is the only place to where you can get the Titan compiling module. Now I believe that they're going to add this in patch 3.1 in Frontier Clash, but for now, this is the only place that you can get it. Other rewards include data repeater, radar detectors, combat equipment boxes, and appointed research materials. You can also buy boost, which increases your attack power for 15 minutes in various challenges. And next, let's go ahead and talk about the mentorship bond level. By doing your weekly missions, you're going to get rewarded up to 100 bond points a week. But after you mentored someone for 20 days, you can then go to a graduation ceremony and you're going to get these various rewards. But ideally, you want to keep mentoring the individual until you have over 600 bond points. That way, you're going to get 6,000 mentorship coins, an attack boost, 2 Titan compiling modules, a title, and a lot of gold. Also, consider supporting the channel. I put out a video earlier talking about Project Nova to where you can support your favorite content creators. All you need to do is go into the link in the description and use my Nova ID to sign up as a supporter. And now let's talk about the Wormhole. They have completely updated it to where you get better rewards like microreactor shards and crystal fragments. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hardest mode, Hercules, and you'll notice that by clearing a stage, I get 13 microreactor shards, and for my first clear, I get 10. So let's go ahead and start the challenge. So when starting Wormhole, you want to equip your highest elemental gear, because what's going to happen is it's going to use that high elemental stat, and it's going to work for all the elements. Because in this new Wormhole, you need to go around and pick up weapons and relics, so that way you can clear the stage, similar to Break from Destiny. So by going to your backpack, you're able to look and see what weapons and relics you have equipped. And the top weapons are the weapons that you're using. So if you want to use one on the bottom, like Coco, since it's an SSR, I can just go ahead and move them. And now Coco is now one of my main weapons. You can even move them around simply by moving the position. Besides that, it's basically the same Wormhole to where you kill elites, and instead of them dropping buffs, they're going to drop golden gear, like relics or weapons. You'll notice right there that I picked up another Coco, so now I have a 1-star Coco. Ideally, you're mainly looking for gold or purple weapons, so that way you can do the most damage. Now I got a relic, but similar to Break from Destiny, I can only use this one time, and then it disappears. You might come across this to where your backpack's full, so simply go into your backpack, and then you can use the weapon and switch the place with it, and get rid of something that you don't want. You also notice these mystery boxes to where you can get simulacrum traits. And just like regular Wormhole, they all die at the same time. And this is what I have leaving the first stage: a 1-star Crow, a 1-star Coco, and a 0-star Shiro, and a King Simulacrum trait. And one thing to note, that if you're able to clear the first stage of the last level, it automatically clears all other levels in the Wormhole, so you don't have to do each one at a time. But since we cleared stage 1, we got this new currency, and these are where we can get our blessing runes. So how this works is you hit this take button, and it will randomly pick between all of the blessing runes. You can either select one, or you can just say, all of these are terrible, I'm going to go ahead and redraw, and you use up 1 energy. So after my first stage clear, I have 3 into Radical Particle, which increases my crit rate, 2 into Blood Rage, to where I'm going to exchange crit for crit damage, and I also got 1 into Overclocking Program, but I got to be careful about that one because I will take increased damage upon getting hit. So let's go ahead and start the next level. One thing to note is that this got ported from CN, so I get to use Bayuki. And with that, level 2 is clear. What I've seen so far is that you're able to pick up extra items that you can use for later on, and you want to also be careful with the Simulacrum trait. I ended up losing my King Simulacrum trait, and I have the Umi trait, which is pretty much useless for me. And we get to use Bayuki's sword, which is going to be fun. Stage 3 is clear. We now have a 0 Simulacrum trait, a 3-star Crow. We still are using Bayuki, and a 5-star Coco. One thing that I think is really good for Wormhole is to generally have your standard team. Someone who can shatter, so I have a 3-star Shiro. Someone who can heal, so I have Coco, and then I'm just using, for my main DPS, Bayuki. And hopefully you can get a good Simulacrum trait. And going into the 4th round, this is what I have for my blessing runes. Level 5 Radical Particle, level 5 Blood Rage, level 3 Shield Reformation, and level 2 Overclock, and level 2 Breakpoint. And like regular Wormhole, on the 4th stage you fight a boss. So skipping ahead, this is a 7th stage. I have a 1-star Bayuki, a 6-star Shiro, and a 6-star Coco. I also have the Fenrir trait, which is great for a balanced team. So going into the final stage, this is what I have. I have a level 10 Radical Particle, a level 9 Overclock, a level 8 Blood Rage, a level 6 Shield Reformation, and a level 5 Breakpoint Slash, and a level 3 Rapid Strike. Ideally, you don't want these to go above level 8, but just due to the randomness of the runes, this is what I ended up with. Now, I would say the top runes are the ones that you want to go for, but if you're having trouble dying, you may want to try to skip Overclock. So here was the final boss, which was Rig, which I easily destroyed with all of my buffs. So here are a few things which I think will help most people when clearing these stages. Make sure you have your highest elemental gear equipped, aim for an average DPS team, which basically has a Shatter, a Healer, and a main DPS. So for me, my main DPS was Bayuki, my Shatter was Shiro, and my healer was Coco. And having Coco as your main healer was very helpful since it's easier to get standard weapons in this mode. So trying to go for something like a 2-star Nemesis over a 6-star Coco, I don't really recommend. And try to get a good Simulacrum trait. King is usually the one that you're going to probably start out with, and then eventually you can probably get a more higher tier one like Fenrir. And lastly, aim for good blessing runes. Here's what I had at the end. Alright, now let's discuss the new area, Domain 9. One thing to note, you might want to go ahead and catch up your story quest because to get into Domain 9, you have to go through a long story quest chain. But we are going to be able to reach level 95 once patch 3.0 comes out, but most likely it's going to be a gradual increase. So you may not need a lot of experience. So even if you do save your story quest, it may not matter that much. But if you want to hurry and get to the max level, saving your story quest could be quite helpful. So here we are in Domain 9, and these are the rewards that we get for reaching each level. One thing that I do want to point out is this Augment Module Box 3, which allows us to get a Movement Coordination module, a Sense Enhancement module, a Core Control module, and an Information Processing module. So if we take a look at the Crystal Dust store, the only type of module that we can get is a Core Control module. So there may be a chance that more Titan gear might be coming in patch 3.0, but so far I have not noticed any extra pieces of gear allowing you to augment them besides gloves in the microreactor. So let's go ahead and talk about the icons that you will see in the new area. We'll start out with the Dragonfly Cruiser. Think of these similar to the taxis that you see in Mioria City. You can use them to get to the various islands much easier. Next, let's talk about the observatory. This is how you reveal the map. What you need to do is locate a star constellation, and it should light up if you find the right one. Since I found the right one, you see it lighting up. I click on it, and now the area of the map is revealed. Next, let's talk about our Astro Monuments. By activating these, it reveals world exploration points on the map and activates the Vermilion Statue's effects in the area. And our most important feature is the Vermilion Statue. You can use these to teleport to various areas in the map. And this is where you're going to get most of the extra resources when exploring. You want to upgrade all of the statues, and each require various energy levels. So right now, for this statue, I can unlock level 2 as long as I have over 600 energy. And I also get 10 shards of the new relic, which can only be used here. And now that my tree is at a higher level, I also unlocked an area effect bonus. So you can see for level 3, I'm going to greatly increase the enemy vulnerability. Whereas level 4, it will unlock sealed Astral Monuments. And each level, of course, gives various rewards. And our last exploration point is the Vermilion Wing. Now this can only be activated if you have your tree at a high enough level. So now that I unlocked level 2, I should be able to use this new feature. So let's activate one. Essentially all they do is just help get you to very high places. The unfortunate thing is that you cannot control where it goes. So all it's going to end up doing is just fly you up to a very high location. Another thing that's going to be helpful when exploring are these bells. Essentially you want to go up and hit the bells, and it's going to reveal a secret path so that way you can get across locations much easier. And as I mentioned earlier, from the Vermilion tree, you can get relic shards for the Speedwalker boots, and this is the item that we can get. It allows us to walk on walls, but unfortunately the cooldown to do this is 90 seconds, and this can only be used in Domain 9. But one thing to note, that as you get more stars for this relic, the duration will last longer, you can activate it more times, and you can even increase your speed. But I still think it's better just to use other characters like Claudia or Rubilia. And here's how it looks when used in action. So now let's talk about the main ways to get energy so that way you can upgrade the trees. So the main way that you're going to get energy is basically by finding these floating energy balls, which will give you 10 Vermilion energy for each one you find. You also have blue boxes to where you can do a perfect extraction, and you're going to get 30 energy, whereas a purple box will give you 50 energy. Next, let's talk about the new feature that you get in the new area, the Smart Servant. So once you get through a certain point in the story, eventually you're going to be able to access the Smart Servant system. You're going to be able to go into a lab located next to the Vermilion Statue Chariot. Once inside, you're going to be able to select between various Smart Servants, and each one buffs a certain element. I believe eventually you can get all of them, but first you want to focus on your main element so that way you can level up that Smart Servant and do the most damage. damage. So for me, I ended up going with Void Angel because this one is for the flame element, and our next upcoming character is Leoa. Alright, so let's go ahead and discuss how the smart servants work. So their attack power is based off the inheritance ratio. So what that is 4% of the average value of your 4 elemental stats, and only the base stats are counted. As you star up this smart servant, it's going to have a higher inheritance ratio, all the way up to 10% once it reaches 3-star. So currently, I only have an inheritance value of 4%, and I can only equip 1 module, and I have a 5-point load. I will explain more of this later. But a 1-star will increase my inheritance value to 6%, my flame jet damage is increased to 118%, 90% of the burn damage in each stage is increased, and now I have 2 modules and an 8-point load. 2-star increases me to an 8% inheritance, my Angel Wrath damage is increased to 901%, and now I have a 3-module field and an 11-point load. And 3-star increases my attack inheritance to 10%, and each stage of flame bomb damage is increased to 619%, and now it has a 4-module field and a 15-point load. And how I advance the stars is by using Void Angel Smart Servant Shards. So as you can see, I only have 1, so it's going to take quite a bit of exploring to get this. So now let's go ahead and take a look at its skills. These are the skills that my Void Angel can do. It has Firebomb, Flame Jet, and Angel's Wrath. And you're able to equip modules, which allows it to do more damage. You can notice right here, I have a level 4 skill module to where I would rather put on the level 6 skill module. But since my load value is not higher than 5, I can't. So I need to get this to at least 1 star so that way I can use this other skill module. And this system is similar to simulacrum traits to where you give them gifts. If you see a heart, that means that this smart servant really likes those materials. So if you're trying to level up multiple smart servants, you may only want to just give them the hearted items. And as you see, just like normally upgrading, it's just going to make my attack and crit stronger for my smart servant. There's also a gachapon element when it comes to these smart servants. So if we click on AI configuration, you will get these tickets called ANI R&D contracts. And you can get them from various places, mainly opening up blue chests and purple chests, as well as upgrading your vermilion trees. You'll see here you have a chance to get a red nucleus and some special vouchers, as well as a whole extra smart servant, shards to advance their stars, and skills that you can use to make them more powerful, and materials just to level them up. So let's go ahead and roll our 5 and see if we get anything special. I got 2 shards of a smart servant that I don't have, basically just enhancement materials, another skill that I can possibly use, enhancement materials, and more enhancement materials. And now I'm completely out. Also, one thing to note is the more you roll, you also get some special rewards. Once you reach 50 rolls, you're going to be able to get a smart servant box to where you can select 1 whole smart servant. After 100 rolls, you're going to be able to pick a certain skill. 200 rolls, you're going to get another smart servant box. And with 300 rolls, you're going to get a skill module 2 box. And the last thing to mention about this system is there's a store to where you're able to use your ANI R&D contracts to just specifically buy the skills that you want. But each skill has a weekly limit of 5. And one thing that I did forget to mention is that the skills have a similar system to weapon enhancements, to where you're going to need a certain amount of lower tier skills to upgrade to a higher tier skill. So you might need quite a bit to get that certain skill that you want. And the last thing to note is that it is pretty important to go ahead and level these things up, because you're able to bring these into challenges like the Bygone Phantasm or Sequential Phantasm. The only places that it seems to not be able to work is Apex League, the Critical Abyss, Break from Destiny, and Wormhole. Now let's talk about a few last features when it comes to the new area, Domain 9. One thing I recommend that you do if you come across a puzzle or something that you don't understand is to check your survival guide. In here, you can go to this section and you can scroll down and you'll start to notice the new features in the new area. Like this one is a burning feather chest, and you might wonder why you can't open it. It's because you need to upgrade your Vermilion statue, which is the same for a chest that looks like this. This talks about the Vermilion statue, the Astral Monument. Here is something called Departure Calibration, to where you need to activate this device first, fire it at a designated spot, and then you can earn a reward. This one is called a Flowing Spring, to where you want to make sure you activate your Astral Monument, so that way you can activate this to where it charges every day and you're able to get rewards. This is one of the ways that you're going to be able to get energy, so it is strongly recommended to try to get those Astral Monuments right away. Especially if you notice right here, it takes a week for this device to recharge. And here is something to where you basically need to just stand on the shrine and pay your respects. And then we have the Quantum Leap to where you need to reach a designated area within a certain time limit. The Field Energy Hunt to where you just need to hit it so that way you can get the rewards. The Pathway Reconstructor to where you align it so that way you can earn the reward. We already talked about the bell earlier to reveal a hidden path. You know about the Observatory, the Vermilion Wing, some field energy you may not be able to get until you activate the Astral Monument. And then of course you already know about field energy itself. And anything else I didn't mention, make sure you check your survival guide so that way you know how to do it. There's also another new feature in patch 3.0 to where you can raise your dimension level and you can decrease it as well. We have another dimension level that we can get to, level 95, to where we get these rewards, an augmentation box, augmentation materials, and 5 data repeaters. And if you look inside this box, we can either have a movement coordination module or a sense enhancement module. So this does increase the chances of us getting a Titan gear in patch 3.0, but so far there's really not many places to get these new modules. So now let's talk about the new boss, which is actually pretty hard. I was fighting it on dimension level 10 and I had some really maxed out stats. So after finding the new boss, it is pretty difficult, and for my flame mains out there, unfortunately it is flame resistant. So I do recommend that you take your strong friends to go ahead and take this down, because to open up the box, you need to be at world level 95. So here's what you get from the box. I got 3 R&D contracts, 3 Smart Servant shards, 1 skill module, and 150 Vermilion energy. And I got 1 advancement module 2 and 6 booster module 2s and 20 sky crystals for enhancing the smart servant. And let's quickly talk about the events. We have a login bonus, an event to where you need to go around and explore, to where for the rewards you can get things to upgrade your smart servant, as well as crystal fragments, red nucleus, and other items. We also got another event to where we can do Fall Guys again, and we're going to finally get the Cobalt skin. Alright, now let's talk about Rubilia. Now, you don't have to get a copy of Rubilia to get around here, but it is very useful and helpful to get to certain areas in the map. For example, let's say I wanted to get to this Astral Monument. I can go ahead and just navigate there. I simply just hold down dodge, and then I can just easily glide over to the Astral Monument very quickly. Do another one, and as you saw, in like 2 to 3 dodges, I pretty much made it across the map. You can also combine Rubilia with other weapons like Claudia to quickly get across the map. And you can even use Lynn to help get you up a little bit higher. Alright, now let's go ahead and talk about some notices that I saw about patch 3.0, so I'm just going to quickly rattle off everything that I found. The first thing is that we don't have any new gachapons, so if you have enough Mira to go ahead and clear out all of the gachapons, you pretty much have no use for Mira in the future. And this is also the same for old Vera coins. We are not getting any extra machines added as well. Most likely you haven't cleared out those machines yet, but you don't have to worry about any other machines coming, so eventually you will get them all cleared out. Next, I want to go ahead and discuss more of the weekly tab, to where I mentioned that we have this chip in Signet Box 3, as well as this chip in Signet Box 2. So you'll notice that these are in my backpack, and you're able to choose either a Type 2 chip or a Signet 2. But remember, there really is no use for Mira, so I strongly recommend that you do not choose the Type 2 chip and you go with the Signet 2, because we're going to mainly need energy for the new area, and this is one of the best ways to get energy. So next, let's go ahead and talk about the chip in Signet Box 3. So you can either choose a Type 3 chip, which you can use on Ode Aspera bosses, a Type 3 key, which you can use on Vera bosses and inner bosses, or the Signet 3 key, which you can use on the new bosses in the new area to get the rewards. So here is a preview of what this new boss is going to give. As you see, we're going to get shards for our smart servant, R&D contracts, advancement modules, and booster modules. And as you saw in the boss section, you only get 6 booster modules, but I believe the extra rewards you get, like energy, R&D contracts, skill modules, make it worth a decrease in booster module 2s. Another thing I noticed is that wine does not seem to be working. You'll notice that my flame attack is 37,068. If I use a wine, it now goes to 39,726. But once I go to Bygone, you'll notice you do not see the wine buff at all. On top of that, if I look back at my stats, I'm now back to 37,068. Even when starting the match, I still have 30,068. And after leaving Bygone, I do not have the wine anymore. And if I look at my stats, again, I'm still just 37,068. This also does not work in Sequential Phantasm as well. So this could be a bug, or it could be working as intended, because we are also getting the Smart Servant system, and the Mentorship store has certain items that only work in certain challenges. Another thing to note is that I'm on Balance Realm 35 in the live servers, and I had to climb my way all the way back up just to get to 34, testing out the new character, Leowa. So there may be a chance that they're going to reset Bygone, so you may want to try to get to your highest level possible, so that way you can get as many rewards as you can. So it looks like here on the server they already started up the next season, so the next Origin of War season is going to be from 7/12 to 9/11, and here are the various rewards that we can get, which will look exactly the same. For Void Abyss, our final boss will be Gaia once again, with the debuffs being Expert Healer and Radiation. So if you struggled on this, you may want to consider going Rainbow. And this is our next battle pass. So we do get 50 SSR Relic Shards. We are getting the new relic, and I'm going to try to say this, Thalastic Heart. And what it does is, it generates a Heart of the Ocean at the target location. But for 60 seconds, the Heart of the Ocean targets nearby targets every 2 seconds, which is 2% times the player's maximum health damage. Follows the current weapon for 45 seconds, and the damage taken by the target is increased by 4% for 5 seconds. So the 1 star launches a tide every 15 seconds, which deals 15% damage to nearby targets, times the damage of your maximum health. Its 2nd star extends the duration by 90 seconds. The 3rd star increases the damage by 5.5%. The 4th star, sorry for my vote users, it increases the vote damage by 2%. And the 5th star allows you to transform into a sea vein and monsters won't attack you for 15 seconds, and your speed is increased for 45 seconds, and the transformation lasts up to 45 seconds. And your next attack will do 25% damage to nearby targets times your maximum health. But we also get a vehicle with the Collector's Edition Tame Tricoon, and this is what it looks like. And again, we are getting this Augment Module Box 3 to where we can get other modules for different Titan pieces. So we may be getting some new Titan gear in patch 3.0, but we're just gonna have to wait and find out. And just recently, they released a Q&A with the producer and a version 3 optimization sneak peek. So I'm just gonna go over a few things that I did not mention in the video, but I'll leave a link to both of these in the description. They have a new story navigation feature to where it's gonna be easier for new players to get to the new areas. The standard weapons, Frigg, Nemesis, Cobalt, and Claudia have got buffed. And we are getting a lot of new features for the controller optimization in the game. And lastly, they have optimized the matching experience, so that way it should be easier to get into challenges like Raids, Void Rifts, Void Abyss, and Origin of War. And lastly, here are some free codes that you may have not redeemed so that we can get some free resources in the game right now. I suggest you hurry up and do this before these codes become invalid. Well, with that should be everything that I was able to find in patch 3.0. Of course, our premier character is going to be Leowa, and Yulan should be the next character coming up after that. So expect character showcases from me before they release. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and you might want to consider supporting me over at Project Nova. But other than that, talk with you guys later.